Okay, hello everybody. No one is on the line yet, so we can wait a little bit before we start this hangout with our lovely Venture to Impact volunteers, who will be here to answer any of your questions. Oh, here we go. We have one viewer. So I'm just gonna kick this off quickly by introducing you to Venture to Impact, telling you a little bit about who I am, and then telling you a little bit about, or allowing our volunteers to introduce themselves, and then from there we can just have a dialogue about their experiences volunteering abroad, and what recommendations and advice they have for you if you're considering to do the same. So just a quick note about me. My name is Fadi Alkhsar. I am originally Jordanian, and I live in Canada, on the east coast of Canada. I started volunteering in 2009 because I felt like volunteering was something that I was incredibly passionate about, and it helped me grow my skills in a lot of tangible ways. And from there, I felt really passionate about this space that I jumped ship from a past life in business and advertising, and I started to do this full time. Venture to Impact is an organization that facilitates volunteer experiences for Fortune 500 employees, mainly from all over the world. And our mission is to transform individuals, families, and communities out of poverty and into lasting well-being. And we do that by focusing on three main initiatives: education, economic development, and empowerment. So a lot of times we go into communities and the level of education is really low. So we need to invest in that to make sure that the programs that we implement in the communities are sustainable and can last and can be managed by the communities eventually. From there, we start economic development initiatives. We started micro-lending programs. We started computer educational programs and so on in the different communities where we worked. And then finally, sometimes we work in communities where they know exactly what they need, but they just need support and thinking and empowerment to help them to achieve these objectives that the community have. And so from that perspective, we come alongside communities and we try to empower them and kind of work with them to facilitate the development initiatives that they need and that they are asking for. Today, I'm lucky to be joined by three of our alumni volunteers. Mark, Kaylin, and Courtney. I'm not sure if Tova is in the room with Courtney as well, but we'll find out in a little bit. And what I want to do now is just pass it on to the volunteers so they can introduce themselves. They can tell you a little bit about who they are, where they are, and where they volunteered with us. And then from there, I'll just start asking them a few questions to stimulate the conversation. If you have any questions that you want to share, or any comments or anything like that, I'll make sure to read those and bring them into the conversation as well. So this is just a really easygoing, informal chat with our volunteers that we're allowing you to kind of view and participate in actively. Mark, maybe I'll just pass it off to you, and you can start by introducing yourself.
All right, thanks Fadi. So my name is Mark Beliveau. I work for Salesforce in Eastern Canada in a city called Fredericton in New Brunswick. This is where I grew up, and this is where I first got to know Fadi and his organization, and I was a participant on one of their trips to Uganda, to a village called Tabiro, where there was an orphanage, a school, and they were doing some economic development there, and I participated in a trip there a couple years ago. You're on mute, man.
Thanks, Mark. Kaylin, maybe we'll just go to you.
Sure, and I apologize for the lack of image. I tried to set it up, but it was unsuccessful. So my name is Kaylin Clark, and I am based out of the same office that Mark is in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I'm a project manager for the Global Support Organization, and I first met Fadi just before Mark went on the Uganda trip, and I heard so many phenomenal things from everyone who traveled with Venture to Impact to Uganda that I decided that I would take a look at what their next trip was. And so I was really excited, and I had the opportunity to go to Indonesia this last April on their first kind of exploratory trip to start a program there with the organization based out of Indonesia. So I just did my first trip in April of this year.
Awesome. Thanks, Kaylin. And Courtney and maybe Tova. I can't particularly tell. Maybe we'll go to you guys and yeah.
Yeah, you've got both of us in the room. I'm Courtney Yorozu. I am based out of the Bellevue, Washington office. I am a campaign manager at Salesforce on the Marketing Cloud team. And I first met Fadi last year, actually, when I went to Ecuador. And it was a great trip, and I'm going to Indonesia again with Fadi and the crew in February of 2017.
Awesome. And I'm Tova Peterson. I'm also based here in Bellevue, Washington. I'm a senior manager within our regional services group. I met Fadi, it's been some years now, but I essentially stumbled across this volunteer opportunity, honestly, like almost 4 years ago now, to Uganda, and thought it was something that kind of matched what I'd been looking for. And yeah, fast forward, I'm going to be joining now the fourth volunteer trip at Venture to Impact with Fadi and team to Indonesia in February. And I've been on 2 trips to Uganda, as well as the same trip as Courtney to Ecuador last year.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for the introduction. And just to let you know, we're at peak viewership time at 4 viewers, so the stress is real. But yeah, no, this is great, and I'm really excited to be doing this live chat. And hopefully we'll get some questions and interactions from people. But as we wait for these comments and questions, I'm just going to start by stimulating the conversation and ask each one of you, why did you want to volunteer abroad? Why were you interested in volunteering abroad in the first place?
You want me to start, Fadi? Okay. So for me, you hear that comment or saying where people say something is a first world problem, and generally speaking, although we do have areas of need in our own communities, if you've traveled a bit elsewhere in the world, you'll realize that here in North America, at least, we have a lot of things that a lot of people don't. And I always wanted to get involved with something where, there was a significant need that was, maybe very contrasting compared to like our own experience here in North America. So that I've always had that sort of desire to get involved with an organization that helped people abroad. I hadn't really found anything until I met Fadi. And then, so that was the general sort of why I wanted to volunteer abroad. And a lot of good things came out of that for me. Maybe I'll hand it over to Kaylin to let us know why she wanted to volunteer abroad.
Yeah, and feel free to jump in at any point, guys. I mean, this is just a conversation. So if anyone has anything to add or any opinions to share, yeah, just feel free.
Yeah, I can jump in next. I think the thing for me is I've always loved to travel. Studied also international tourism management through my my college years. So have always been passionate about, you know, the cultural learnings and learning about the differences that we all have. And so for me, when we then also from a company perspective, found out that we have 7 days to spend, you know, paid time off to volunteer essentially. I was like, this is amazing. I can now combine, you know, my love for travel and wanting to learn and understand, you know, the cultures and the day-to-day of other people throughout the world with then also then, you know, getting to do that using the time we get from Salesforce. So that was kind of one of the drivers. And I think in talking to Fadi as well about the program and, you know, the flexibility and how, you know, what our week was going to be during this trip, that it was all very kind of flexible and all was going to be kind of driven also by the people who participated on the trip. Like we were going to be contributing into what we will be doing. There wasn't going to be this very rigid kind of program. That to me was also very enticing and exciting. And just being able to kind of, I always refer to this as a cultural volunteer trip, because it was one where I wasn't necessarily going to go there to teach someone. That wasn't the whole main purpose. It was also about me learning and kind of taking that back. And also, I think to Mark's point, like we also have a lot of challenges here in our local communities and kind of, again, just starting to trigger a lot of thoughts. So that was kind of some of the drivers, was that perfect package and the perfect opportunity for me to go on based on what I've been looking for.
Yeah, and I think for me, it was a lot of getting outside of my comfort zone and, you know, experiencing something new. Fadi and I had many conversations before I went to Ecuador, and I just kept saying that I need to step outside of my comfort zone, and the time was right for me to travel and also see new places that you know, you don't get to see, and see a different side of the world, which was, I mean, and now I'm going on my second trip, and I just think that for me it was more of a stepping outside of what I'm used to day to day, and stepping into somebody else's shoes.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on your point, Courtney, just all the conversations that we had about getting you comfortable with stepping outside of your comfort zone. Ecuador was a very difficult trip. We were traveling in the middle of the jungle with many flights and canoe rides and bus rides just to get to where we were going to be staying. So I think that was a really valid point for you to take your time and think about the experience and kind of make sure that you're comfortable with it before you jump in. And we love to help volunteers make sure that the experience that they're doing is the right fit for them. And one of the things that Mark and Tova kind of talked about, which I really identified with, was the learning piece, is that a lot of other organizations kind of talk a lot.
I think we lost Fadi for a moment.
Yep. It's a great face. Great face.
Yeah, good one. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to add while we're waiting for Fadi to chime back in?
See if I can pay him actually.
I don't have anything to add at the moment.
How are you, Tova?
I'm good. No, I would say to those that are interested in going on this trip, you know, I talked a little bit about that flexibility. That to me is like my biggest advice as people are, you know, thinking about this and they ask like, oh, what is the one thing you can kind of recommend that what should I prepare for? And I was like, be ready to just go with the flow as soon as you meet up. Because I think in every kind of location or trip that we've had, it's one of those where it's, you know, things can change. You can, you know, the bus that's going to take you to the airport breaks down, so you kind of have to hijack a tourist bus. Like it's those things will happen. So you kind of got to be ready to just kind of pivot with what the situations end up being. But to me, again, like I mentioned, that was part of what excited me about these trips as well, was it wasn't so rigid. It was like these things, and experiences was going to happen on top of the already planned experience, which to me is what's drawing me back for a fourth trip, essentially.
That's great. So that's, I got logged off for a second, so I'm not sure what happened or what we were talking about. But it's really good to talk about the whole expectations idea. We see a brochure, we see a good PowerPoint deck or a lunch and learn, and we have all of these expectations about what's going to happen abroad. So I'm just wondering, what were your expectations before you, any of you, before you guys got ready and went to go on your experience? What were you expecting, and what was kind of playing in your mind at that point?
Sure, I can answer that one if you can hear me now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now, Fatty? Perfect. Okay. So I think, if there was multiple different sets of expectations I had, the first one was just in terms of the overall experience. I had never traveled to any extent as far as what we did to go to Indonesia. And so my expectations of even where we were staying or what we needed to bring to prepare, all of that part, I was so excited just to, even when you looked at the photos and everything, I still didn't know how to prepare for that. And that part I kind of stressed out a bit at the beginning and had, 3 suitcases worth of things I probably could have brought with me, but I managed to condense it all into one backpack for traveling. And I was just so, surprised and grateful for how prepared you guys were with everything, and how there was a lot of things that we didn't need to bring, and so that expectation even of just the organization of the trip, I think was really fantastic. For the actual experience, I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. I think I tried to not set any expectations, but even when you do that, you always have something in the back of your mind. And I've done a lot of work here in Fredericton or in Ottawa, where I grew up, with communities that were in poverty. And so the definition of poverty of what you see here in Canada is very different than what you see in the other locations. And I think when you picture it, there's no way to describe what your actual sensation is when you experience it for the first time. So, things that you expect, like the right down to the clothing of the people, or even, that how happy they are, you just don't expect those things when you're traveling to go, based on your expectations from where we are. And so I think bringing it back to what Tova and Mark were saying is you learn so much even just from what you had as expectations, and how they just transform how how I even set expectations when I travel other locations now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. No, it makes a lot of sense. And I think one thing that I expect as part of my job is to expect to be really prepared for all scenarios, but then expect things to come up that I need to roll with and make game time decisions on the ground, which is something that we really enjoy. But yeah, there's a lot of expectations that many of us have before we go on trips, whether it's based on TV shows or blogs, or what our other friends have experienced, that really shape what we think we're getting ourselves into. And so it's really good to kind of identify those and maybe even talk through them, call your trip leader and say, hey, this is what I'm kind of imagining. Is this right? Do I need to adjust my expectations, or what's the best thing to do here to make sure that I'm adjusting properly on the ground, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. I did have one other thing actually to add that I think was another pleasant surprise, which was when we were, even with the agenda that we went through before the trip, I wasn't expecting so much time to, reflect or even talk about the things that happened each day. And I think that was one of the best experiences also, is just having the time to reflect on, the relationships you built that day, the experiences that you had, and how you can transfer that into useful information to bring home with you. I think that was really great as well.
Why do you think that was a highlight? A lot of people want to be really, really busy on the ground, want to make sure that they're working 12-hour days to help communities on the ground. So why did you feel like having a little bit of bandwidth to think and reflect and connect on what you did and the relationships that you developed was a highlight for you?
It's a great question. I think I think for me the biggest thing is if you're busy the whole time and you're just jam-packing the days filled with events, you don't really take that time to think about the impact the experiences have had on you, or even maybe potentially a bigger impact you might be able to have on the, how you handle the next day, how you handle the next hour. And so I think having that time to really reflect and then use the information that you've learned to change the way that just to almost like self-improvement, I guess, is it's almost much more instant versus, at the end of the trip on the plane, when you're on the plane for 25 hours traveling across the world, that's when you're starting to reflect and you can't use the knowledge that you learned the day before in the next day's activities or even the conversations that you have. I think that time to reflect both was instantly gratifying as well as long-term for me.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, I think that's a big part of what I enjoy about these trips as well, is just that human interaction, right? And not just with the communities, but within our own group, because, we come from extremely busy, long days of working and such kind of like connect to technology constantly, like go, go, go. And being able to kind of have that experience to just honestly have that pure, honest kind of human interaction without all those technical gadgets and all of that. And from having conversations, from silly conversations to serious, reflecting conversations, playing cards, like hanging out, like that to me is really, really cool as well. And I feel like every single trip that I take, it just kind of enriches that more and more for me. Like, and I come back and truly, truly appreciate that with all of these trips as well.
Yeah, and I think, especially going to Ecuador, we couldn't do anything. We spent a lot of time with each other, and I think it was great to, step away from the day-to-day of our busyness of email and phones and, having social media. It was really nice to step away, get to know everybody that we were with. Granted that we kind of had to give us the space that we had, but I think we all grew together and we really bonded in a way during that trip. And just expectations for me for that trip really, I went in with an open mind. There was a lot of things that were on that piece of paper that, all right, they were going to be challenging, but I think just going in with an open mind really helped me really make the most out of the time that we had there with the community and with everybody that we went with.
That's great. Okay, we're going to go around and Mark, did you want to say something?
No, I'm good.
No, say it. We're live. I can't. People will know.
I was just going to comment on being in a foreign land with, a different culture, very different. It kind of forces you to be present, more than pretty much anything else in your daily life. As you're interacting with the other people, there's a little bit of a language barrier sometimes. So that was, echoing what some of the other people said, just that, I think I was more present on that trip than I am on like a normal vacation, style trip that I would go on. Just because there's so much interaction. It's, incredibly rewarding in the end.
That's awesome. That's a good perspective to kind of add into the conversation. I know that some of you have to hop off early, so I was hoping that I could get you guys to share with us some of your favorite stories from your time volunteering abroad. So if you have one particular story, interaction, something that you want to share from your time volunteering abroad.
I guess I can probably share one. So when I went to Uganda, one of the things that I took with me was my love of photography and sharing basically photography with both the children and the adults in the village in Tabira. And we had brought a bunch of cameras that people donated to the village. And for many of them, it was probably their first time using a digital camera. And so I think one of my favorite moments, and you can see it in some of the photographs that I brought back of people using the cameras, you can just tell like how excited and joyful they were just to learn something new that they had never been exposed to before, and you know how happy they were to like receive that. And so just that you know sort of ecstatic joy you could see in their faces. You know, I have many pictures of them, you know, taking pictures with the cameras and looking at the back and being excited at the, you know, the discovery that they were sort of undergoing. So for me, that was probably my biggest, you know, one of my most memorable things.
That program was a huge hit that year. I think we had 100 cameras with us, and we taught probably at least 3 times that many students photography, which was really, really inspiring. So yeah, that's a great memory.
I think for me in Ecuador, it was really getting to, every afternoon we got to play with the kids and do different activities with them, and just to see the pure joy and excitement that they had, being able to play soccer, hockey, or, you know, play with the parachute, or, you know, other games, and take them, you know, just gather them all together and let them run around and have a good time. And I think just letting them be around us and like having, like, just really seeing how happy they were to, you know, play with older kids and adults, and they were so happy to get out for a couple hours and just kick a ball around, or, you know, just interact with everybody.
It's great.
I can share. I think for me in Indonesia, it was the second island we went on, and we had been to the school in the morning and had the afternoon to play with the kids, which was phenomenal. You know, the same kind of stories that Courtney and Mark were sharing with the children. And the big thing for me is after we did that, we went to the family's home for lunch. And even though there was a language barrier, the 2 hours conversing with the mother of the family, the grandmother, and the father were just the most engaging conversation I think one of the most engaging I've ever had. And it was so interesting. We had a translator, but he didn't even have to translate half the time. We just seemed to understand what we were saying to one another, and it was just a really powerful moment, just to, you know, with how different the cultures are and how different the communities are that we come from, but we just had that kind of connection. And I think that was really powerful and something that I kind of brought home with me.
That's awesome. That's a really great story. And I remember those interactions because the food was so good, and I feel like I was just like stuffing my face and just like looking at them like, this is amazing, and I didn't have to say anything.
And then they taught you more. Yeah, it was great.
And I think I had so many things are popping into my head of memories from all these trips. But I think, you know, similarly as well, I think the beginning of our trip in Ecuador, they wanted to make sure that we spent the first day essentially interacting and learning about the community and their day-to-day. So we were essentially paired up with, if we were female, with a female in the village, and the men got paired up with the males in the village, but essentially got to spend an afternoon or morning with an individual that lives in the village, and just helping out with those kind of normal day-to-day chores, from, you know, doing laundry in the river, which I apparently got the whole rinsing down. I did that wrong, apparently, but just kind of getting to experience that and see the hard work and, cooking the lunch and cleaning in the house, and just a lot of respect for the hard work that goes into their day-to-day every life. And that to me was kind of a surreal moment. You find yourself standing like with water up to your knees and washing, and you look around, like it's an incredible experience. And again, similarly, I did not speak a lot of Spanish, so it was definitely that language barrier. So a lot of kind of the communication, because we did not have someone to translate for us, was through just trying to figure things out through a phrase book or pointing and smiling and using facial expressions. And I think that to me was something that was really special and fun.
Welcome back, Fadi.
Hi. I'm not sure what happened on my end, but where are we? Down to 1 viewer, so obviously crushing it. This is obviously going really well. I was just going to ask you guys why Venture to Impact, and if you have any recommendations for volunteers who are considering volunteering with us.
I think I like the approach that you guys take with the community and how you involve them in any sort of development that's ongoing, as opposed to flying into a place and sort of solving problems for people. The whole way that you guys are really looking for something that's sustainable within the community, by the community owns it. You're basically helping them through your resources. You're helping them with whatever their need is, and as opposed to you deciding what it is they need to do or solve. And so I think that approach, and I didn't really get that probably as much until I went on the trip and really understood how you guys work. But that for me is sort of the thing that made me want to do it again.
So when are you coming?
I've already. I think probably in the summertime. I think Ryan and I have plans.
Okay, the top secret trip that we're working on for the summer. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, just to kind of jump onto what Mark had said, I think there was 3 main reasons that I thought it felt right to go at that time and with Venture to Impact. And one was with what Mark had said, just the long-lasting impacts that you have versus going in and building things that are very helpful. But I like seeing that progression, or where the journey has come from where you guys started to 10 years from now or 5 years from now, and see some of those plans with the community members involved. And then the second piece was, I think for me, one of the biggest things traveling across the world again was something new to me. I've been through Canada and the US, and that was about it. So the safety, I think the security that I felt traveling with you guys, the extra measures that you took, the research that you provided, all of that stuff, I felt very safe and secure traveling by myself. Once I reached the group. And I actually just forgot the third piece, but it might come back to me. I think it was around how you make the trip. It benefits the community, but how you really try to make an impact on the volunteers as well. I think that just helping to make us think differently and give us that time, the time that Tova was talking about, or I think maybe Courtney was talking about spending with people and just playing cards or doing things. It's nice to interact with the other team members, as well as just have some of that time to grow yourself.
Yeah, and I think what's been said so far is, honestly, my reasons as well, right, is that, it's very clear, and I think the organization as well, you make it very clear. It's like, we're not coming in there to try and save the world or save this location in a week. It's about finding those longer-term sustainable solutions and, not for us to just kind of come in and fix, but teach them how to sustain and kind of continue on, when we're gone, I think is great. And absolutely that personal development that also comes with it. Like I said, each trip just continues to develop me from a personal perspective as well, which is amazing. And then the added bonus of getting to see different parts of the world at the same time is just it's just amazing. So, which is why I'm going back for the 4th time. Come along for the ride, buddy.
Yeah, we love it. It's great. Well, the chat's blowing up, but maybe I'll just give you guys a couple of minutes for closing thoughts, and then I will let everyone go to their very busy days. And yeah, so if you have any closing thoughts or any maybe what would you tell someone that's on the edge, or maybe we'll close with that. If someone is watching us that's on the edge right now, what would you tell them from the volunteer perspective rather than from my perspective as a leader in the organization?
Well, I think this is funny because I had a conversation with Courtney when she was on the fence, and I was like, if you're continuing to think about this, and all I can say is that you're not going to regret it. It's going to be worth it. You're already so far along in your thought process that you really do want to do this. There's something that's maybe scary about it, or something, like to your point, getting out of the comfort zone. But that was the simplest thing. I was like, I promise you, you will not regret it. And once you go, you're going to want to go again and again and again. And here we are, just coming for the 2nd time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had multiple conversations with people. I was on the fence, and I was like, should I go? Should I not go? And definitely there's no regrets. I am back. Sorry, Fadi, you're stuck with me again for another trip. But yeah, if you're on the fence, I mean, my advice is just to take the plunge and really experience something that you don't get to do on a day-to-day basis. You don't get to do all the time, and yeah, it's just something that I felt I wanted to do, and it definitely changed my view on the world and about living outside of your comfort zone. So if you're hesitating or you don't know what to do, my advice is just to go for it. Experience it, get the most out of it, and reflect on, what you learned while you were there, and really try and soak every moment up that you have there, because time flies. We were there for a week, and time seemed to go by so quickly. So just enjoy every moment and just go for it.
All right. That's great. Maybe, Mark, instead of telling someone that's on the fence what to do, maybe you can close by telling us, how has volunteering in general contributed to your life overall? I mean, you went to this place for a week and you spend your time volunteering, but then you've been back for a couple of years, and what has the impact on your life from that one trip? What was it? Has there been an impact?
I think a lot of us in our everyday lives, even though we probably enjoy our work, there's a lot of, sort of pent up demand or need to do something for others and maybe to give back. So for me, it was sort of that, sense of being able to give back. And I think one of the things that ties into your last question, which is a lot of people might be on the fence because they're not really sure what they can bring to the table. And I think everyone has something to bring to the table that could be life-changing, both for yourself and for others that you impact while you're there. So for me, it was, to some degree, maybe it's a little selfish, but to some degree, it showed me that I had something to bring to the table. In my particular case, photography is a long life passion, something I do outside of work. If I didn't have that in my life, man, I would be a totally different person. And it's entirely possible that, even if one individual from that village, this was that seed that planted that for the rest of their life, that would be a huge deal. And I can just tell that because of the impact that it's had on my life. So I think just learning that I have something to give, and that I have something to contribute. And I think on subsequent trips I'll be a little more able to identify things where I can help, and maybe less on the fence.
Okay. Yeah, great. That's great. Kaylin, closing thoughts with you before we end this broadcast. Any, you can choose. How has this trip impacted you after you've come home, or what you would tell someone that's on the fence? Because I know that it was quite the process for you to kind of lock that in.
Yeah, I think just the transition, I'm definitely one of those people that overanalyzes everything and wants to be as prepared as possible. And, I think what Courtney's, the statement of just take the plunge and do it is the best thing. I almost felt the moment I kind of clicked the email where I was like, Fadi, I'm in. I had this weight lifted off my shoulders, and I was already really excited. And so I think that if you don't go, you would completely regret the opportunity. I mean, when you have an organization that has such an impactful trip for the community, for yourself, and then an organization that supports you going on this trip, it's a trip of a lifetime. And I mean, I should take advantage of it as much as Tova is taking advantage of it as well, and Courtney. And I think that it's, like I said, once in a lifetime opportunity. So I think that, get your ducks in a row, or what you need to know that you feel committed. But if you're on that edge or the fence, I think you definitely should take the plunge.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. I know how busy you all are, so I'm just gonna, thank you as volunteers for coming in and being a part of this live chat. It was so good to see all of your faces again. It's so good to hear how your experiences abroad have impacted you, have shaped your thinking, have contributed to you. It just makes me feel really fulfilled. And I just want to thank everybody that joined the broadcast. And hopefully we'll get to do more of these things, and hopefully we'll see all of you in person soon. So thank you so much, and have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you guys.